नमस्कार। आज का ये जो राइट एंगल का जरिए अभी हम आपके साथ मेरा कुछ विचार प्रकट करूँगा। एंड एज यू नो टुडे इज फुल ऑफ इम्पोर्टेंट न्यूज़ी डेवलपमेंट्स। जैसे आपने देखा होगा आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया को पर काफ़ी क्रिटिसाइज़ करके बोला है कि वो जो इलेक्ट्रल बॉन्ड पर इंफॉर्मेशन देने के लिए वो एक बड़ा न्यूज़ है। बट सबसे बड़ा न्यूज़ अभी आधा घंटा पहले अभी जो हमारा भारत सरकार ने सिटीजनशिप अमेंडमेंट एक्ट ये जो पालन हुआ था, मेरा ख्याल में इट वाज पास्ड बाय द पार्लियामेंट इन दिसंबर 2019। एंड आप जानते हैं कभी भी कोई एक्ट अगर लॉ पास होता है उसके लिए रूल्स फ्रेम किया जाता है बाद में, तो वो रूल्स फ्रेम करके आज वो रूल्स इन्होंने फ्रेम किया गया है। एंड एग्जैक्टली ऑफ कोर्स वी डू नॉट नो दोज रूल्स एज येट, बट द इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट इज दैट फ्रॉम टुडे that CAA will be enforced in the country. And as you know what that CAA is, this is the biggest lie that was propagated that time in 2019 when Parliament approved this thing. And as you know, in protest, particularly some prominent areas of Delhi literally were blocked by the protesters. You know that Shaheen Bagh के से रोड में लोग बैठे हैं all over the country। ये किया गया, बोला कि this is a communal ploy to divide the country and it is totally anti-Muslim. But as I said that this is the biggest lie that one can really come across as I am trying to explain it. What this Citizenship Amendment Act is? The Citizenship Amendment Act ये जब हमारा देश का विभाजन हुआ 1947 में, and it was one country, and how it was partitioned, the most unfortunate thing, that's a different matter. But it so happened that even after partitions, it was not complete transfer of populations. In this sense, everybody talks of B.R. Ambedkar, the maker of our constitution. Actually, he was the president of the drafting committee of the constitution. To say that he only made the constitution is not exactly correct, but that's a different matter. But he was a tall leader, and of all the big leaders those days, Mr. Ambedkar was always talking of this. He was not in favor of partition of the country. He was saying the partition only will be of any effect provided there will be total exchange of population, like the non-Muslims from Pakistan will be transferred to India and all the Muslims of India will be transferred to Pakistan. And then of course you know that West Pakistan and East Pakistan, which subsequently became Bangladesh. And he had said that as long as this is not done, then this communal division in the country will not be solved. And I think he was prophetic in the sense that the very fact that abhi bhi hum ek independent India mein where everybody is equal before the laws still talk in terms of Muslims and Hindus. That means that communal divides have not actually been eliminated or narrowed down, but that's a different thing. But the point is, since the total exchange of population did not take place, many Muslims stayed back in India, and many non-Muslims, and when I am talking of non-Muslims means particularly Hindus, then followed by Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains and Christians also. They stayed back in what was then the undivided Pakistan, means West Pakistan and East Pakistan. And you'll be surprised to know, those days when partition took place in the West Pakistan, the Hindus comprised around 25% of Pakistan's population. Do you know what is the strength of Hindus today in Pakistan? It is not even 1% or about 1% at the most. And what was the percentage of Hindus in, say, East Pakistan or Bangladesh? It was more than 30%, I think 31 or 32%. But today it has come down to around 7%. So what happened to this thing? Whereas in India, where the Muslims at the time of partition maybe constituted, after the people left, I think a rough estimate was that it was less than 8 or 9%, but today 2011 census around 14 to 15%, whereas the number has gone up, which is a natural in the process. I am not talking of these illegal migrants from other countries, but the point, the number of the people, population increase is a natural phenomenon. So normal case, then this number should have gone up, as it has gone up of the Muslims in India. But in those countries, in Pakistan and Bangladesh, that number has drastically fallen. What exactly is the reason? The reason is the discrimination on religion, or on the basis of religion, and that means forcible conversion, exploitation, violence. So because of all these things, what happened? Some people, it was natural. It was one country after all. Some people have migrated to India, and of course that is not legal, illegality. That's a different matter. They did come, and because it is becoming extremely difficult for the persecuted minorities in those countries to survive. And the same also is the case in Afghanistan. Though Afghanistan was not exactly a part of undivided India, but the fact is that it was it's like Nepal. The undivided India and Afghanistan are culturally, historically so interlinked. It has lots of Hindus, Buddhist, and actually that there are very many famous Buddhist sites are there in Afghanistan. Great statues which unfortunately have been destroyed by the Taliban when they came last time, not this time that they are in power. I think before 2001 or 2, that time they destroyed, and then it is because of that Islamic fundamentalism and that extreme form of Islam that is practiced there. It also started persecuting the Sikhs, and so much so that you will be surprised to know that there was a political consensus in the country. And when Mr. Vajpayee was the Prime Minister and Mr. L.K. Advani was the Deputy Prime Minister, there was an important debate those days in our Parliament, and you will be surprised to know who most eloquently argued for granting citizenship to these persecuted minorities who have fled those countries, whether it is Pakistan or Bangladesh or Afghanistan. None other than the former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. Then he subsequently became the Prime Minister. That time, of course, he was a tall Congress leader. In fact, if you go to YouTube, you can find out his particular speech very easily. So BJP as a party always said that these people should be given citizenship in India, because after all we have got our cultural and historical things, and if their life is becoming so miserable in those countries, in these three countries, Bangladesh, Pakistan and India, and if they have come over to India, then it is on a humanitarian basis, we should make them citizens. They should not be declared illegal immigrants. So that is what the BJP government in 2019 they passed that law. Though of course one can argue that if you pass the law in 2019 and this is you have taken as many as nearly 4 or 5 years to implement them, I think there is a scope for legitimate criticism. But to say that this should have waited till the next elections are over is something I personally do not buy, because after all, if during this term of Modi government this law has been passed, then it is quite logical and natural that during this term it should be implemented. In fact, as I said, that it should have been implemented much earlier. So to make it a political issue right now, I think is wrong. And as I said, this is the biggest lie in the sense that it said that it is going to, when those protests took place, those 2019-20, and that Delhi's Sahinbag area, and and all over these opposition parties led by Congress and Mamata Banerjee there in Assam, in Bengal, they did. What was the narrative? Their narrative was कि and our Muslim brothers and sisters were those who were agitating and protesting, somehow or the other, they were fed this thing that your citizenship will be taken away. I think, as I said, this is the biggest lie. Here, this law is talking of granting citizenship. That means it is talking of making people citizens. It does not say that we are taking away your citizenship and we are making you non-citizens. And it has nothing to do with the Indian Muslims. It has nothing to do with that. It only talks of those unfortunate and hapless and persecuted religious minorities in these countries, which coincidentally happen to be the Islamic countries, and or rather they say that they go by their official religion is Islam. So it is talking of them. If they have come to India, they should be made citizens. So that it is communal, because you are not making Muslims also not including, but I think it is it very clearly says that it is the religious minority, the Muslims in Pakistan, the Muslims in Bangladesh cannot be said to be suffering from religious persecution. I think this is if one says that, and the Muslims are I think it is like propagating a bundle of contradictions, and rather talking of a bundle of contradictions. Now, how a Muslim will be persecuted religiously in an Islamic country is something different. But unfortunately, that was the narrative then. And in fact, what it does, it's not that a normal Pakistani or normal Bangladeshi, if they come and stay in India and they want to become Indian citizens, like any other community applicable to any other citizens of another country, if they want to become the Indian citizens, so there are proper procedures. And in this case, what happens is that the minimum period of stay in India should be 11 years, or your spouse, your husband or wife, or it has to be Indian. And here nobody talks of Hindu, Indian and Muslim, and it's not. So the point here is, it's not a question of something which is against Islam as such. No, actually, lots of Pakistanis have recently been made, the citizens. It's not that they are not being Indian citizens. I think in 2019 or 21, I think there was a parliamentary question, if I remember. I think nearly 8,000 such, Pakistanis and Bangladeshis had been, granted Indian citizenship over the last 20, 25 years. That famous singer, what is his name? Adnani Shami, he became an Indian. It's not that. So what actually this law does? It does that, these unfortunate, people, in their case, they only favor that they have, this law has, favored them. It has, quickened that, process. As I said, it takes usually 11 to 13 years to be eligible for applying for a non-citizen or person coming from outside to become an Indian citizen. In this case, that time period has been quickened. It says that those who came to India before December 31st, 2014 will be made Indian citizens. Now suppose it is 24. Now technically now it is 24. Now today is March 10 or 11th 24. So what effectively it now says, now that the laws will be implemented from tomorrow, they already have spent in India 10 years. Even suppose some guy had come before say on December 30th 2014. He or she has already stayed in this country for 10 years. But when this law was made, there are many people who have come after 2000. So it said only for those people. That time, if I remember correctly, 2019, there was some study made. They said that on average what was happening is that the people who would be benefiting out of it, because this law was made in 2019. So 2014, not all those people who already have stayed in the country for 7-8 years. That means the only concession that they are getting for applying for Indian citizenship and being favorably considered for that, instead of say 11 years, they can become citizens, say in 6 or 7 years. It is a matter of 3 or 4 years. That is the jump only they have got. It has nothing to do with being anti-Muslim. So that's why I said that this is the biggest lie that one has come across in one's life, particularly a great democratic country like India's political narrative being propagated by our political parties which at the moment happen to be in the opposition. So don't be surprised if some of them, Mamata Banerjee has said that, look, as long as I am there, I am not going to implement it. The Honorable Chief Minister of West Bengal perhaps doesn't realize that the power to grant some person a citizenship is that of the central government, not of the Bengal government. And those criticisms who say that it is politically dividing, I think it is equally also sensitive for the BJP. For instance, if the narrative, the opposition narrative says that it has been done deliberately by keeping the elections in mind, and that Matua community in Bengal, who were demanding this thing much before to get their votes. BJP can have a problem. The reverse, they are in Assam. In Assam, the people there also are in this anti-CA, and there the people are not essentially the Muslims, they are the Hindus also, because they think that illegal immigrants and this CA. So I do not know what exactly the rules are that have been released today or announced today. So how they will be overcoming that possible protest from their Assam also remains to be seen, because there the government happens to be that of the BJP. But I am quite sure this is going to be a big political mudda, and I will not be surprised if some people again go to the Supreme Court to stop it on some pretext or the other. And I do not know what the court will do if at all these people go. But if I see some of the recent sensitive cases that have gone to the Supreme Court, unfortunately, I will say that these are it has in the process got politicized, as in the sense that I have already mentioned this in one of my earlier discussions with you. Politicization in the sense, what is happening unfortunately, today, as I said, that another big news was that election bond. I am not going to challenge the honorable courts this thing, but as a citizen of this country, my point is that can the laws be implemented retrospectively? For instance, you say that all those people who contributed or rather bought those bond and contributed money to the respective parties must be disclosed. But then when these people disclosed it, that time the law of the land was that law was made by the parliament. So you can say that in future this will not be done. I can understand that. But the honorable court, when it says that law is going to be implemented retrospectively, that means they have taken away the right to privacy, questioned the right to privacy of those people who have given money. So their identities will be disclosed. If as a voter, these activists, and then the Supreme Court has sided with them, they have got the right to know. Similarly, these people who did not do anything illegal, I am insisting on this sentence, they didn't do anything illegal. After all, they did whatever the then laws of the country passed by countries parliaments allowed them to do. And you said that retrospectively their names must be disclosed. I think after 5-10 years, or scholars of the judiciary definitely will be pondering over this sensitive judgment that the court did. But then my point is this: there are many such cases where the impression that one gets is this: laws are supposed to be made by the parliament, right? The elections take place, that we will be electing the MPs to the Lok Sabha. That means their principal job is to legislate laws. And in our democratic constitution, there is something called the principle of separation of powers. That means there is executive, there is legislature, there will be judiciary, and each will be not crossing the so-called the Lakshman Rekha. Now what is happening, these people, particularly say those parties or these activists, because they belong to the same school of narrative that is propagated or that is given by these opposition parties, you cannot get elected, you are in a minority. So you cannot really frame the laws of the country. Under our constitution, under our democracy, elected in a democracy, the majority of the legislatures of the country will be making laws. You do not belong to that, so you cannot make laws. You oppose that. But what you do then, you immediately rush to the Supreme Court. And then Supreme Court takes away the power of the legislature and declares this law is illegal. Invariably this has been so. And who are the people? They are the prominent lawyers. And who those lawyers? I think they are essentially big political leaders, whether it is Mr. Kapil Sibbal or whether P. Chidambaram, whether it is Mr. Singhvi. They essentially are political leaders. But if you see the newspapers or must be coming across the news, every day they go and they have select in their scheme of things there is a select group of the justices. They go to their court and they literally coerce them to take a stand and said that decide on this, and the court, this is the impression, they come under the pressure, and it so happens in many sensitive cases they say that the laws passed by the parliament are illegal, like this election bond, like for that matter these amendments, the judicial reforms. So my point is this: if this trend, and in fact there are many executive decisions that the Supreme Court has really taken in the recent years. They even decide where one liquor shop will be established. They also decide what should be the price of a particular commodity and thing. There are many such executive decisions on the basis of this so-called concept of public interest litigation. And then another thing is that a basic feature of constitution which they never define, that is at the mercy of the judges of a particular bench at a particular time. And as you know that in India, this is the unique thing. Nowhere in the world the judges appoint themselves. That means there is no concept of separation of power. That has already been diluted. And when these unaccountable judges take essentially political decisions and has a habit of making the laws duly passed by the parliament illegal, if this trend really gains strength and becomes more and more frequent, then I think there is a danger to the country's real democracy. Let me rest here today. Thank you.